This has been several weeks in the building, but it's finally here. A special month just to talk about one series, a franchise unlike any other, and one that is referenced everywhere. And of course, as with any other series, we must always start at the beginning, the series that started it all. Grab your stone masks and focus your Hamon. It's time for Jojo June Phantom Blood. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am your ever-friendly Pokeprof, and welcome back to a special theme month for Fascinating Fiction, where we're going to spend the entire month of June to talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. For those of you who don't know about the series, well, here's a super quick primer before we actually get into the meat of the episode to make sure you're all on the up and up. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is among one of the longest ongoing manga series created by Hirohiko Araki, starting in the year 1987 and is still going on to this day. It depicts the stories of a line of characters who all bear the Jojo nickname in some way, shape, or form, and revolve around the use of supernatural forces and beings done in a rather unique style that is all the creators. In fact, this is the major thing that could be considered to be what is really bizarre about the series, is the fact that Araki kind of walks to the beat of his own drum, ignoring both critiquers and publishers alike when being told on how to make his series successful, and instead going on with his own ideas when it comes to telling the story. Though we'll get into that a bit more when we actually get to the proper parts. What exactly do I mean about parts? Well, if you're familiar with other long-running series like Dragon Ball, you know that different eras of the franchise are actually separated into distinct parts. The original Dragon Ball, of course, focusing on Goku as a kid and him growing up, Z focusing on the adventures of his adulthood, and Super being a 10-year time skip after the end of Z. JoJo very much does the same thing, with each and every part of JoJo is considered to be its own separate story, though major elements, themes, and the occasional character being carried between them as Araki saw fit. Now, with the basic breakdown of those unfamiliar with the series out of the way, let's actually talk about the first of these parts, the original Bizarre Adventure itself, Phantom Blood. Being the first of a long-standing franchise, let's be entirely honest with ourselves. Phantom Blood is a bit rough around the edges. We got a fairly slow start with both the anime and manga that spend its time introducing us to the two major characters of this particular arc, Jonathan Joestar and his adoptive brother Dio Brando. The title of Bizarre does immediately fit with the series as you see the art style and realize that as we're going through this, both Jojo and Dio are supposed to be like 12 when we're first introduced to them. While the style has actually become iconic in its own right for the different use of poses, over-the-top action, and overall character design that would actually go on to inspire other franchises, it's something that always stuck out to me as just being a little out of place, though that could just entirely be intentional. The story itself doesn't really hit the ground running until after we get a small time skip, learning that Dio is slowly poisoning Jonathan's father for a chance at the Joestar fortunes. This also includes the involvement of a mask that becomes one of the major defining pieces in the series and the initial source of its fantasy elements. You see, the special thing about this little mask? When you spill blood on it, spikes shoot out of its sides and into the brain of the person wearing it. But instead of killing them, it turns them into a vampire. With the mask, Dio becomes reborn again as one of the undead and gains most of the abilities that you would expect from one of Dracula's ilk, sucking blood, becoming superhuman in terms of strength and speed, weakness to sunlight, the whole 9 yards. That said, I don't remember Stroker's vampire also having laser eyes, but that's manga and anime for you. From this point onward, though, we have Dio doing his best to set himself as the strongest being on Earth, which, considering the fact that he's now an unholy monster, means he's already head and shoulders above most others. Seeing what he's capable of, Jojo works to take Dio down, befriending best waifu Robert E.O. Speedwagon and learning a a special martial art from Will A. Zappelli known as Hamon to fight the evil vampire. And for those of you who are going, wait a minute, at hearing those character names, no, you didn't mishear me. If there's one thing that Araki here is known for more than his poses or art style when it comes to the bizarre adventure, it's the fact that the vast majority of the characters outside of the titular Jojo draw their names from music, with the two characters here being of course REO Speedwagon and Led Zeppelin. I'll tell you right now that this only gets more blatant as the show goes on, to the point where not only did the series have complications in translating into English, actually stalling the American release, but they had to change some of the names to even be allowed thanks to American copyright. I mean, hell, the major villain of one of the parts is named Funny Valentine. We'll really see some of the biggest changes once we get to part 4 at the end of the month. Now, as a whole, Phantom Blood itself isn't that long of an anime or a manga, with the former being only 9 episodes in its entire run, little more than an OVA, and 44 chapters in the latter. It's actually so short that when distributed out on DVD, Phantom Blood is actually considered to be part of the same series as part 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, despite it actually starring a different cast of characters and having a different storyline. The action happens fast, and since it's the most concise of the entire franchise, it adds to that roughness I was talking about before. To be fair, I'm not entirely sure myself if Araki actually intended for this feeling of an almost first draft quality for the start of what would become one of the most influential series of all time. With the knowledge that he's willing to forego conventional wisdom or suggestions from others in search of his own vision, an aspect I can completely respect, I think this is his first real foray in telling a story his own way, and he personally hadn't worked out all of his kinks yet. Though that said, I also feel like this roughness, this not quite planned feel that the series has, is actually part of its charm. One thing that we tend to forget when it comes to a lot of media we consume is that while they are really structured and set up with obvious acts, events, and characters, real life isn't like that. No one is ever sure of what is going to happen or what this world is going to throw at us next. And despite it involving vampires, magical sun energy, and 1.5 million characters named either after musicians or their music, Phantom Blood feels very much like it could be a thing that happened, where the characters are just trying to go through their lives, and it isn't predictable in the slightest. As a story to enjoy, I would say it's a solid one, though I do think I consider it to be the weakest when it's compared to its future counterparts. That life aspect of his story doesn't really appeal to everyone, and it even took me more than a single watch to really get into it. Not only that, the buildup is a bit lacking, and it feels like the events go from 0 to 60 before things even really get fully established. But it's still the base of which JoJo was built upon, and it's proved to be solid enough to last for several decades. That alone proves its worth. Come back next week as we skip forward a couple of decades after the end of Phantom Blood, where we learn about the origins of the Stone Mask, see the progenitors of the vampire that Dio became, and get into my personal favorite arc of all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Battle Tendency.